Hello everyone, Aric Hall with the Blaze of Glory. I wanted to do a little video about that 50 miles down a dirt road to an old schoolhouse in Wyoming. I don't think anyone's ever been able to find out where that was. Has anyone even asked Forrest Fenn where that was? I wanted to just take a quick rundown at all the times he's mentioned that number 50. Somebody said there was 50 O's in the poem. Now, I haven't added that up myself. There was 50 miles that he and Donnie Heath got lost up above Red Canyon. That famous quote that he had cast in bronze about he who dies with more than $50 in his pocket is a failure. Jackie Kennedy left a $50 tip for the cleaning lady. He took 50-cent showers near Old Faithful. He worked 50 hours a week for the Air Force. His father committed suicide with 50 sleeping pills. He now says in his old age, he says, I have to sit down after I walk 50 yards. He gets 50 emails a day from people that are certain they know the search spot. He gets 50 emails a day from people thanking him for giving them the motivation to get out in nature. He says Eric Sloan wrote 50 books in 50 years. He excavated 50 rooms at San Lazaro. He talked about Indians carrying stuff for 50 miles on foot. And then another story, he was sorting 50 pieces of pottery. In one tale, he was talking about going 50 feet up a lodgepole pine tree. He says that the Santa Fe Trail runs 50 feet from my library window. He said he hadn't had a speeding ticket in 50 years. Agnes, the professional photographer who took 50 photos. And Forrest mentioned something about 50 times leaning up against an old Roman wall building. 50% of the people are on this earth to enjoy the other 50%. And he mentioned how Skippy, his brother, had many interesting events in his 50 years on this earth. Is there something special about the number 50, or is it just a bad habit to keep saying the same thing? It's like when you watch my videos, how often do you hear me say the word anyway? It could just be a habit. I study numbers. Of course, in this poem, I've had an obsession about certain numbers like 300. I say in the poem, in the treasure hunt, when I study prophetic eschatology, I'm big into looking for repeating numbers and number patterns down through history. But back to the schoolhouse. He says that they went 50 miles out of the way to see this Wyoming school with the quote that says, "Whoso teaches a child labors with God in his workshop." Some people have the quote as "whosoever teaches a child," but I think it was originally "whoso." That was credited to Horace Mann, who was an advocate for education out of Massachusetts. He was probably a bit of a hypocrite because he supposedly homeschooled his own children, but he wanted to tell everyone else how they could improve education for their children. This summer I skimmed through a big, thick history book on Wyoming schools, and I had many pictures that I went through of all these old Wyoming schoolhouses, but none had that sign. I have a photograph that I got from one of the history pages. It was a 1941 photograph from, I think it's the east entrance of Kepner Hall at the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley. Now that was probably about 15 miles off of the main U.S. Highway 287 route that the Forrest Fenn family might have taken to Wyoming, but it's in Colorado. It's not 50 miles, not round trip 50 miles. But it's the only picture I've been able to find of that quote on any kind of educational building. I contacted the public relations people up at University of Northern Colorado. They sent me a newer picture of that quote, but they took the picture with a great big dead tree branch blocking the view. So I found another Google-sourced picture of that. It's an interesting quote. It's nice to have a picture, but we have no idea where that came from. Maybe somebody should ask him where that school was. Well, that was the purpose of this little video. Remember to click like, share, subscribe, and donate.